Welcome to Little Birdie Podcast. I'm your host, Scoot. This is a unique look into the world of sports betting, and I'm proud to introduce our newest AFL expert, Mark Goodwill, the Kid MG. Welcome to the team, Mark.
Thanks, Nick.
And the effervescent Darcy Spinks.
Hey guys.
Joins us again. How's your weekend, Darcy?
Yes, it was good. I spent the weekend at my family's farm. It was a hoot. How about you guys?
Oh, we won't save like the in-depth chat with the live stream for tomorrow's show on Bet Doctor, but yeah, it's pretty public knowledge that we dusted 121,000 of the punters' money. So it was a very entertaining day. We had Jubster and DK on the couch providing sort of rolling commentary and banner. So it was a great weekend, and the results just didn't fall our way. But Mark, what about you? You're a big AFL women's watcher, and you've got a subscription package out there for $1.10 at the moment in the Little Birdie shop, but you digest a lot of women's footy as well, don't you?
It's more just because there's nothing else to watch, really, at this stage of the year. It's a bit by default. But I was entertained over the weekend, 7-hour package for the racing. It was very funny being on the chat and conversing with a few of the punters out there. So even though our results didn't go our way, we had a good time in the process. So while Darcy was just sunning herself.
Yeah, you were behind the scenes. You're on the tools. You saw your first live stream. Yeah,
it was very funny. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's worth checking out. And there was some funny episodes, which I'm sure we'll digest later time.
There's a little snippet. Someone's made a comment on our YouTube channel on the live stream, and they've time-stamped a very funny moment in the show. So check out Little Birdie Podcast on YouTube and just hit the little link on the timestamp under the comment section of the live stream, and it'll take you to a classic moment in the stream. But let's get to know you a little bit more, Mark. You're our resident AFL expert.
New.
Yeah, you're very new. You're fresh, but you've been in the game a very long time.
Yeah, I'm number 2 draft pick behind Darcy for 2021 season for Little Birdie. So
I'm sure you'll hold your own. Now, Mark, you've been a bookmaker for quite some time. You worked offshore for Pinnacle, which are one of the world's biggest offshore bookmakers.
Yep.
And you were trading the tennis and the AFL there.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. It was very good. I was at Mark Reed's at the time with a group of lads and spent 5 years up there doing the AFL. And that was my earliest gig. And then had an opportunity where a few of us were going across to the Caribbean. A good mate of ours, Dwight.
Yeah.
He was the first to go across.
Beijing twig.
Yes, and took him about, I reckon, 1 or 2 months to said he's found heaven. Basically put about a dozen of us on the plane in the next 6 months, and we all ended up at Pinnacle. So living in the Caribbean was tough, not going to lie.
Would have been amazing.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, from about 25 to 35 it was tough to take. So yeah, didn't have a winter for 15 years, wore the shorts, learnt the US betting landscape, which
would have been fascinating.
Yeah,
just non-stop.
Yeah, much more aggressive, I find, compared to the Australians. Probably tied into the European side of it, where we're a bit more on the defence, I guess, and more mass numbers.
Yep.
The US landscapes, definitely with Pinnacle, was a good education in how to take on the punters. Like 6 and 7 figure bets on the US sports is not uncommon over there. So. Big joint. I got there early, about the second year or third year of Pinnacle, and I was the next 2 or 3 years is when they really exploded onto the world scene. So it was good to witness that. So learnt the craft over there, and then managed to come back work with Bet Easy.
Yeah, with Matt Tripp.
Yeah, with Matt Tripp, got an opportunity there. They fitted me into the AFL team again. So for the last 5 years until we finished up last year. So that was good.
Yeah, you've watched a lot of AFL, like. You'd be one of few people that have watched, nearly every game of AFL probably for the last sort of 15 or so years, and it's been an amazing time with the expansion teams. Darcy, do you watch a little bit of footy? Who's your team?
Yes, I do watch a little bit. I actually go for Richmond.
The Tigers?
Yes, I know. So,
how'd you find them? Is the old man a Tigers supporter?
No.
2017 Premiership.
just chimed in on the bandwagon?
My family actually go for North Melbourne.
Oh, controversial.
So, yes, my dad's not too happy about that. But I watch a lot of footy.
Yeah?
But, I haven't really put any bets on, so I'm interested to hear what Mark has to say.
Well, I'm not going to tip you into the favourite, Richmond again. So I think they've found their price. But
Yeah.
You will have a better year watching your team, unfortunately, than your dad will watching the Kangaroos. So maybe you can help him out with a transfer membership for this year to make sure he can enjoy some.
He won't be happy with that, but I can suggest it.
Yeah, they're both favourites, but the wrong sort of markets. I think Tigers are the premiership favourites and the Kangas are the favourites in the wooden spoon markets. We'll go into depth with them a little bit later, but it's been a massive off-season for the AFL and the NRL. But But Mark, you've also got the tennis background as well with Pinnacle. You traded a lot of tennis, and what did you make about Djokovic's win and the price of Djokovic in the final?
Yeah, well, people I've spoken to, we were actually we had a few Betfair boys in here the other day, and both of them commented that they couldn't believe the price of Djokovic. I think he traded as high as $1.90. It was basically a pick 'em final. Maybe Djokovic just slight favourite, but his record, he's been to 8 finals in the Aussie Open. He's won them all. Now it's 9-0. And I just think, Medvedev came in on a 20 match winning streak. He had good form and everything like that, and he'd beaten Djokovic in his recent outing. But it's horses for courses, I think. And Djokovic just grows a leg in Melbourne. I know he had an injury, which might have halted his progress. But once he gets into finals, his record's unbelievable. So, I've found a lot of people have commented and they've asked the question is why he was such a big price, and then he's gone out and smashed him after the first set. Really, the first set was very good, and then it was one-way traffic. So
yeah, we're sort of talking about over dinner. I didn't get to see a lot of tennis this time around, and I think the scheduling, like pushing it back a few weeks, has impacted the viewership, and I guess COVID is another factor. But I think no one does anything in January, so to get to the tennis is quite easy to do in those last few weeks.
I think the biggest factor with the crowd and probably the media that feeds off it is kids are back at school.
Yeah.
So it cuts out a lot of the families. So it's not just the kids that don't get to go, it's the parents that take the kids. So it's very hard to get a crowd, and because we're used to it in January as well. So, it's a time slot where people come back from holidays after Christmas, New Year's, have a couple of weeks, and then they know the last 2 weeks before they get back to school is, so it hurt the Australian Open for sure. They would have, I imagine the bottom line would be red.
Yeah, it'd be shocking. I didn't get there. Did you get there, Darcy?
No, I didn't. I usually go a lot, but this year I only went once.
VIP
but
tickets?
I didn't go actually in. I just went to one of the things that are on, outside. And you watch it on the big screen.
Yeah.
Darcy's only in the marquees, the VIP marquee. He doesn't actually sit in the normal seat area.
No, I was actually in the Canadian Club section,
cool.
watching it on the big screen. But usually there's a lot of activation.
From up there?
It's a great view. It's a great view,
Now, what about Osaka, Naomi Osaka? She's now becoming dominant on the harder surfaces.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's. I know she's not number one, but her at her best and Birdie at her best. I think you only want to be on one girl there. She was magnificent in the final. I think Brady played her final in the semi-final.
Yep.
She put up a good effort, but you see what Osaka do. She's got very little weakness in her game. And she was dominant and has been for some time now. And I think she's 23 years of age.
Can't believe that.
She's won 4 slams, So, she's dominant and she's probably set for a big year.
We sort of spoke about it yesterday when we were talking about the show and that, but just her maturity and her mental approach to the game is improving. So it's probably scary to think that the older she gets, she's just going to, as long as she stays fit, she's just going to become really dominant, isn't she?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think tennis is a sport where winners win. I think we've seen that over the last couple of decades. The mindset when you start to win, whether it's Serena or Roger Federer, Djokovic, whatever. And I think Osaka, you can see now, has got that at 23. She's ready to go. And I think it's a real even field behind it. I think there's been 14 or 15 different winners leading into this Grand Slam, so she's bucked that trend.
Wow.
All right, let's start to talk some AFL stuff, and it'll be interesting to see what the off-season scandals do to a couple of clubs. We've got Dimmer Hardwick. I don't know if we're gonna go there, but then we've got Gary Rowan down at Geelong. Geelong have got a couple of big inclusions with Jeremy Cameron and have picked up some pretty mature players in Higgins and Isaac Smith and Nathan Buckley. Collingwood have had the off-season from hell, and Buckley's been a busy boy in the off-season, and you probably would, given the drama around the club, you'd probably want to blow off a little bit of steam, but
Collingwood have had a nightmare off-season. Didn't have a good playing year in 2020 either, well below expectations I would have thought, but they've lost their president, coaches on the tear, they've had racism issues, salary cap issues. They've had to get rid of one of their dominant midfielders in Treloar. He's gone to the Bulldogs. They've got some real issues. Collingwood, I think they're under pressure, and losing Eddie will hurt the club long term for sure.
Yeah. It seems maybe it's because the international borders are closed or something like that. But has the off-season drama been heightened by those international borders? All of a sudden, all the stars and the big names can't play up because all of a sudden you
can't get away.
Yeah, you can't get away. You're confined to Australia, and I guess the strange things happen in the hub bubbles and stuff like that. But yeah, it seems like marriages are falling apart, and there's lots of different scandals. And I'm sure we're only scratching the surface. There's all the, we heard all the rumours about what was happening at Hawthorn too, but maybe a little shout out to simpleseparation.com. They're a low-cost divorce settlement company.
Yeah, you can log on. A few coaches, I think there's been 4 of them in the off-season, or 2020 in the hub, so they'll be checking out the website just to help them move forward.
Yeah, it can wrap things up very quickly there. And I thought it was a little bit funny with Clark. He appeared on another podcast, I think Dylan and Friends, and he mentioned that the Hawks have got this policy about the 4 Ps, the piss, the penis, the powder, and the punt. And before the players break off into the off-season, he reminds them just to be careful about the 4 Ps. What do you reckon about that?
I'm not sure how loud the message was. A few haven't heeded his advice, I would say. And unfortunately, they've made their way into the media. I just think on the media, the point that you brought up before, I just think with not being able to get away, and also with the media being a lot of shutdown roles, they're starved for stories as well.
Yeah.
So I think they may go looking for him a bit. You see many reporters down at the Sorrento Hotel, things like that, where they like to hang out. Normally they would be overseas getting away where they're not under media scrutiny. Unfortunately, they need a release as well in the off-season with the pressure they're under. And unfortunately, they've been under the Australian media watch. So, yeah, not too many stories get through untouched these days.
So I think now that now you're on the Little Birdie podcast, they'll be dodging you down at the Sorrento Hotel. I would have thought they're like, oh, here's Marky, and we're going to land on the show this week.
Yeah, it can. What I've heard, what people like Nick have informed me of coming on the shows is it can go the other way as well. Is everyone wants to come up and tell you the stories or tell you the yarn?
Yeah, Little Birdie tells.
Yeah, that they get credit for the story. So if anyone sees me in a bar, happy to buy a beer and listen to your story for sure.
Yeah, we do like whispers, and we'll keep your identity confidential. Now, the NRL's back in a couple of weeks. They always go off a week earlier than us, and it's just not...
They always go off.
Yeah, they do. And there's been amazing drama this week. Sam Burgess has got pulled over, and he's tested... It's been alleged that he's tested positive to cocaine on the way to pick up his kids. It's just... NRL... It just always delivers the big story. And we've got Top Rope Tedeschi coming on later, and I can't wait. He's like a kid in a candy store on the eve of NRL. There's no one that loves the game more than him, and he just lives and breathes. I said, how are you, mate? You ready for this week's show? And he just said he can't wait. He's just itching for the action to come back. But I thought it was just timely. All of a sudden, the show comes back, and there's Burgess. He's just done us all a favour, and the show writes itself every week with the NRL.
Yeah, I think that's what he likes most. He just wakes up every morning and the story's already written for Tedeschi, so I'm always plenty to talk about. As much as the AFL boys seem to get into trouble, the NRL guys always seem to top it most years. So
I've heard that.
Now, Cam Smith, Gold Coast and the Broncos look set to sign him. I can't believe that this close to the season he hasn't signed in the dotted line, but I guess the premiership market and the betting there would indicate, and a little whisper from Tedeschi thinks that Gold Coast Titans are in line there. We've seen what Tom Brady did with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's similar effect. Cam Smith's one of the greats of the game.
Probably the greatest, I would have thought. I don't know who would be in front of him. His record's pretty good. Yeah, I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Cam Smith. I'm not sure what the purpose would be going to the Gold Coast, whether he can win another premiership with them or not.
Money's not a thing.
No, maybe he's just not done playing. So maybe 450 games or whatever he's up to is not enough.
Interesting article the other day. Andrew Webster in the Sydney Morning Herald, he gave a little bit of a whack to PVL, the patron saint of rugby league, self-anointed. He was trying to get a police commissioner on the ARL commission to try and stamp out corruption in the game. A paid public servant on the ARL commission. He's got to be dreaming. And rightfully so. Gladys hasn't approved it. And he's just a funny one with PBL. He just floats things in the public domain and to see what the public sentiment is. And if they like it, he runs with it. And then if not, he goes, oh no, we didn't want to do that anyway, and sort of retracts. So there's a lot of hate coming around from NRL fans that he's making decisions on whims and fan emails and, crazy ideas that sort of pop up into his brain. So, a big shout out to Andrew Webster for just pulling him into line, because I know from a racing background, there's not many journalists, if any, that are prepared to give PVL a whack. So I think it's it's great for journalism that's happening. But let's take a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll get into the serious stuff. We'll talk AFL Premiership and wooden spoon markets, and we'll get Mark to run his eye over all the sides and where they're likely to fit into the Premiership and wooden spoon markets. But Darce, if you're betting horse racing, you're going to do your form with
huntingform.com.au, Australia's best online form guide and database.
Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast. I'm your host, Scoot. This is a unique look at the world of sports betting from the eyes of professionals. I'm joined by Mark Goodwill, the Kid MG, the AFL Sting in Little Birdie Land, and Darcy Spinks. And we're ready to get stuck into the AFL Premiership. Can your team win the flag this year, or are they destined for the spoon? I think we're just going to go straight from the top, MG. We're going to the pointy end of the market. And we'll go to the top sport market.
Darcy's team, she's tipped us Richmond again this year over breakfast.
And surprise, topsport.com.au.
Yes, so we have Richmond at $4.60.
MG, thoughts?
Yeah, listen, they're hard to tip against in terms of what they've done. To obviously do what, say, a Brisbane team did in the early 2000s is, difficult to prove as well. They've had a bit of carnage in the off-season, which doesn't seem to hurt them. They're priced in. I mean, you can't pot Richmond if anyone likes them and stuff like that. You can't say, oh, Richmond can't win it or anything like that. They're going to be there at the business end. They've got the most dominant player in the game, and they're well coached. I mean, the coach is, he's had a rough summer himself, but when round one rocks around and everything like that, they'll be ready to go, Richmond. So, you got a lot of time to back them at 460, don't you? Correct.
Yeah. There's no rush.
No, there's no rush, and in most seasons so far, they've actually got out to bigger prices sure. So they will have a flat spot during the season. You just can't go. They're not going to go and win 20 games for the year or anything like that. So you can pick your moment on Richmond, but when it comes down to September, they'll definitely be there.
Yeah.
Next up,
then we have Geelong at $5.50.
Interesting. They've been really active in the off season, and we were speaking about it last week about Jeremy Cameron. The dynamic that he's going to bring to that forward line.
Yep.
It's scary to think of the tools that they've got up forward. If you've got Hawkins, Dangerfield, and now Cameron, it's a nightmare for any club to defend that.
I'm not sure many can defend it. And I think the way that they're going to set up the word out of Geelong is Dangerfield's probably going to play even more forward.
Yep.
As Cameron will probably be the high centre half forward because he's got an engine. I think Dangerfield is probably the biggest winner out of the Cameron trade, to be honest. He, fit and ready, he'll kick a lot of goals, take the pressure off Tom Hawkins, and they could really put some scores on the board this year. So Geelong are well found at the 550, but again, the massive home ground advantage. They're a solid top four side, and if they're in form at the end of the year, I know their grand final record's not great, but 550 you can't really talk anyone out of that either. It's scary for me, to be honest. I'd nearly mark them ahead of Richmond with that new recruit. Like when you think of Richmond when they got Tom Lynch, it just freed up Rewalt, and it just causes absolute chaos. Yeah. So as much as I hate Geelong, I think that they're the team to beat this year. Yeah, definitely. Crazy. When Lynch went to Richmond, they had a plan B. So Rewalt was always plan A, and that's all they had. Lynch goes out. Cameron going to Geelong almost gives them an automatic plan C. Because Dangerfield can play deep as well, and Tom Hawkins can get up the ground. So Scott won't need to be impatient when things aren't working for a quarter, and he'll be able to toss them around and make sure they get scores on the board. So, they're going to be dominant, and I probably can't see them missing top four.
Yep.
Right, there you go. Just quickly, who do you guys go for?
I go for Hawthorn.
I was
long suffering.
I grew up at Collingwood as a kid. When I started betting, I just dropped off and tried to become neutral. I know a lot of people don't believe me, but it's the truth.
Really?
And, I just found it easier to, assess form and stuff like that if it's neutral. So
he's a different thinker, Mark, and we're sort of doing the mic warm up. I've got to share this story, but our audio guy says, count to 10, and everyone's 1, 2, 3, and Darcy's 1, 2, 3, and then Mark's like, well, what does everyone count up? Well, I'm going to count down. And I said, mate, we're not launching rockets. He said, not yet. We'll save that for the AFL season.
So funny.
But need to be a different thinker to win on the punt for sure.
Definitely. So now we have Brisbane at $7.50.
Yeah, I think Brisbane are probably, if I was going to have one pick now to invest pre-season, I don't like investing pre-season on future bets. I like to at least get into a couple of weeks. But Brisbane price-wise, I think are at a good price point at the $7.50. they're not massive value, but I just think their price point's good. They've got a very good home ground advantage. They've got some of the best, one of the best defenders in the game. Obviously, the Brownlow medal was dominant last year. Their forward line, when you talk about Geelong's forward line being stacked, Brisbane's is now the most stacked for mine, most balanced. If they get Danaher up and running, that could be that extra couple of percent that they need to win a flag this year. So I think Brisbane at 750 could be a team that will shorten as the year goes on.
It's an interesting one. I don't know if he is the silver bullet. To get him on the track seems mission impossible. And if they couldn't win it last year at their home deck when everything went right for them, how are they going to come down and win at MCG?
Fair point. I think he doesn't need to be the silver bullet. It's like Lynch coming to Richmond. He was part of the jigsaw that they needed.
Yep.
And Danaher doesn't need to go out and kick 50, 60, 70 goals. If they get him on the park, play 18 games even, just contribute, kick 40 maybe goals and be part of the team, create the chaos for everybody else. You're only talking a couple of percent different when you get down to the last four, and Brisbane are on the upward curve. So I just think at 750, I think there'd be one I'd definitely tip in for the early punters.
Okay, interesting. All right, now we have Port Adelaide at $8.
Probably a little short for mine. A solid team, good home ground advantage. Obviously at the top end, they've got no real weaknesses. Their defense can be a bit shaky at times, I think. I think they're a bit undersized, and I think that's where they get found out coming at the business end. So if you like Port, I think they're a bit unders for mine.
Orazio Fantasia, Essendon to Port.
He's going to put some runs on the board. I think he had one good season maybe. I think he's we'll wait until see he turns out. He's a bit of a myth at the moment for mine. So
not a fan.
No, not a fan. He just hasn't put runs on the board. There's a lot of players that play on potential, and at some stage they've got to put runs on the board. Maybe the change of scenery will help him out, new coach, new structure and stuff like that. But he won't be carrying him to a premiership. He won't be the difference.
Fair.
You're right. Okay. Then we have West Coast Eagles at $9.
West Coast always in the market. Very strong club. Their list matches up with most. Got a dominant home ground advantage. They're probably always on the underside of value. They're a hard team to catch in terms of getting a good true price for them because they're always well supported. Home state's massive for them and stuff like that. Got some big punters behind them at West Coast. So won't talk you out if you like them. I just think they're about the right price. I don't think there's too much value there.
Okay.
A bit short early.
Yeah.
Then we have the Western Bulldogs at $13.
Yeah, I think Western Bulldogs and St Kilda both the same price, $13. And I think if you like them, you can't be talked out of them. I don't think they're overly value. If I was going to pick one of the two, I'd probably pick the Bulldogs. I think they probably underperformed last year. They had big raps on them going into 2020 and probably didn't perform. I think Treloar's massive going to the Bulldogs because I see their structure setting up where Bont will go forward, a bit like Dangerfield for Geelong. I think with that midfield, Bont, he will play midfield minutes, but I would be surprised if he doesn't play more the Dangerfield ratio forward, and that makes their forward line very dangerous. He's a very good kick for goal, and he's a very good overhead mark as well. So I think I'd prefer the Bulldogs over St Kilda at the same price, but I'm not sure their value in the market either.
I tipped up the Bulldogs as my mover for last season at the start of the year, and I love Treloar. I think he's just an absolute magnet, and probably we love a rort here at the show, no doubt about it. We'll talk about some more rorts later in the show, but Jamari Ugle-Hagan, hopefully I've said his name right there, but for him to go pick one of the Western Bulldogs I just can't get my head around it. Now they've scrapped the whole system and these matching bid things. The AFL make a lot of mistakes, and there's a mistake they're making at the moment. They're trialling a rule at the moment where the player has to stand still on the mark, and there's some footage on our Twitter page at Little Birdie Pod, and there's a 50-metre penalty in an Essendon practice match where the player deviates a little bit off the mark. If they bring this rule in, and I'm spewing that our mate OB couldn't be on the show today because he worked in the department around the sort of Stephen Hawking AFL rules sort of area, I was going to give him an absolute bake for this rule, and I wanted to tee off again about how Jamara Ugle-Hagan has ended up at the Western Bulldogs. It is a complete and utter rort. What do you think?
I would say if it was Hawthorn, you'd be less up and about it for mine, which Hawthorn do have a way of finding every rort. So you're just disappointed that you've missed out on the rort, I think. I mean, you got to play within the rules when they're there.
Yep.
And if the AFL block them afterwards, then that's, kudos to the Bulldogs. They look like they've stolen one, and we'll see how it works out. I don't think he might not be a massive impact player this year, and I think the way the Bulldogs are set up, they can probably give him time to develop, being a young, maybe key forward. So you might see more of him in 22, I think.
The replays on him are just unbelievable. He just takes marks standing on blokes' heads, and he's quick. He just seems like the all-round player. Yeah. He's something to watch. Yeah.
Be interesting to see if the Bulldogs do set out a plan for him, and whether they get close at the pointy end of the year, whether they try and get him into the makeup and maybe give him a crack at it towards the back end of the year, or just give him a plan where, say, go in the reserves, build up your strength, your work and whatever, and we'll get you ready for 2022. But maybe he might be an X factor towards the end of the year. So are you backing him again this year? Are you going to?
Well, I'll probably have to go down with the ship again, just spec the Bulldogs. But again, like at $13, it looks a touch skinny for me. But I'll have to have a look at the first half of their draw, and if they look like they're going to get off to a flyer, I might be tempted. But I think it was like $26 I took last year. So
I think history shows with teams like the Bulldogs, in opposition to West Coast, is you always seem to get value on teams like the Bulldogs and St Kilda because they maybe don't have the supporter base.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think during the year, you don't have to rush into the Bulldogs, I wouldn't have thought. You can, as you said, just see how they're going early and stuff like that, how their midfield gels. Treloar will fit in. He's a magnet.
What about, let's talk, I guess, your contenders. So you've highlighted Richmond, Geelong, Brisbane, Port, West Coast Eagles, Western Bulldogs and St Kilda as all genuine threats. Do you want to talk quickly about St Kilda?
Yeah, St Kilda, again, probably a side that was touted last year. They've done a lot of recruiting, and they recruited well last year. I think they got a lot out of the recruits they got. I'm just not sure where their improvement is going to come to take the next step. So I would say that it'd be on the bottom half of the 8. But they'll give you a good ride for your money. They're an exciting team. I like the way they do play. But again, I just think there's no great surprises in the market, and one will jump up from last year. But I just think that the top sides are just too solid. I don't think the gap's closing in the AFL. I still think it's
widening.
I think it's widening. Yep. You sit here pre-season and you'd be very surprised if someone outside that group would win the premiership.
Yeah, wow. Well, that rounds off your contenders. Let's talk about sides in the middle, from the middle of the road. They're just going to be thereabouts, and there's not much wow factor about them. Who's next, Darcy?
All right, so we have Collingwood at $13.
That looks bulk unders to me, and they might be a little bit of a victim of just popularity. Are they just overbet all the time?
Yes. Yeah.
And week to week overbet?
I would say generally, yeah. They just got their supporter base, their media coverage is just too great.
Yeah.
They're definitely one that I would stay away from at the moment. They've had a horrendous off-season, and I just couldn't come in at the $13, and I can only see them drifting for sure.
Really? That's interesting. Okay, then we have GWS at $26.
Not sure with GWS. I think the window's passed on GWS. They've had a stack list for a long time, couldn't get the job done, went really close in a loss in the grand final. Again, just keep leaking players. I would say they just missed the 8.
I can't come at them at all.
No.
Yeah, not for me.
Okay, yep. Then we have Melbourne at $26.
The D's, eh?
They're the same as GWS.
Jeez.
How do you describe Melbourne?
You'd never want to be born in being a Melbourne supporter. I feel sorry for my old man barracks for Melbourne.
Oh,
he's
really?
always barracked for Melbourne.
Yeah.
And I think during the 50s, I think they won 4 in a row. And so he would have been excited as a kid, and since then it's just evaporated. So, to tell you the truth, there's one team in the AFL in my time I wouldn't want to barrack for, and I understand why they go the snow every winter, is Melbourne.
Yeah.
They just disappoint.
It was funny. Mark said yesterday, he said it's like going to Kittens or the strippers without 20s. That's what being a Melbourne supporter is like.
That was a different Mark that said that.
Not you.
It was a different Mark.
I thought it was. I thought it was classic. It made a lot of sense to me. Next up.
Yep. Then we have Carlton at $29.
These guys have had a pretty rough off-season, haven't they? The injuries are stacking up for Carlton.
They are, yeah. They were one probably before Christmas that you could entertain at a price, Carlton. Their list is building. I know they still can't get Charlie Curno's there. He's their probably missing link to their puzzle at the moment. They just can't get him on the park. Loves getting injured with other sports. Their list and their best team is definitely good enough to make the 8. And I think they could probably just sneak into the 8. But what we've seen in the new year, their list is, I think it's 12, 15 deep now. And they've got a lot that won't line up in round 1 and a couple of weeks in. So they look good value on paper, Carlton, but they might have a tough draw early, and I think they might drift a little, but I still think they can entertain the 8. Probably can't win the flag.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. Then we have Fremantle at $41.
Can't have Freo. They're just too reliant on one player. They got no scoring capacity. Got a good home ground advantage and stuff like that. They've got some young kids. I just don't think they've got the heavy hitters, the big names, other than 5, to make the finals. So I couldn't entertain Freo.
I might leave the room for the next one.
Now we have Hawthorn at $81. How do we feel about that one?
Flat as attack, to be honest. I don't know if I'm going to go to the MCC much at all. Lucky COVID restrictions are still hit, but I'll be heavily sedated drinking lots of red wine if I'm at the footy.
I think Darcy might need to get 2 memberships, one for your dad and one for Nico.
I'm not jumping on the Tigers. I'm going to have to just cheer my second team, the Bulldogs.
Maybe you can get a little Birdie family pack of membership and just take everybody, because Nick's not going to see too many wins, I wouldn't have thought, with Hawthorn. Their list is on the way down. And I can't entertain that, though. They're just not a bet.
Yeah, I sort of mentioned on the end of last season that Clarko may have lost his sort of edge and lost the hunger and not ruthless enough.
Did you tell him that personally?
Well, I wanted to, yeah. I was going to call him.
I hope he's listening. I might fire him up,
Yeah, 4 Ps. I don't know about the 4 Ps, but we've got some big problems.
Well, you didn't listen to him in the off-season with the 4 Ps, so...
Mate, it's been very hard to get wide down in Melbourne with COVID restrictions, so I've been very well behaved. I'm ready for a blowout. Gold Coast Suns?
Yep. Now we have the Gold Coast Suns at $81. So the same as Hawthorn.
These guys were having a bit of a blowout, the Burleigh Pavilion. I did spy Matt Rowell on the Long Island Iced Teas, and a couple of the boys were just going absolutely crazy at the Burleigh Pav, and why wouldn't you? It's an amazing venue.
Yeah,
have you been there, Darcy?
I'm yet to go there, but I've just seen, and I really need to go there. It looks awesome.
We'll organise a little Birdie road trip.
Sounds good.
I think with the Suns at 81, Swans at 71, I think they're closer to the wooden spoon area than the flag. I just think you couldn't make it up. It's just percentage at the moment, these back end teams, and I can't see either one making the finals. They may improve a little bit. Gold Coast have got some upward spiral, but they're a long way off making the 8, in my opinion. Rao just can't carry them to the finals yet and needs support.
Yeah, I'm a big brand man, and I can't see them winning or making the finals until they change their jumper. It looks like an under-10s Oz kick sort of setup, and surely they've got the budget somewhere to find a new design. I think Port Adelaide went to their fans to find some of their jumper, right. And I think once their team gets better, they need to change that strip. It looks like Oz kick, and until that, the players just aren't going to make it. It's a lateral. It doesn't make any sense, but that's my firm my on how
so it's
bad
fashion based that they're not
performing.
Bit.
And Darcy knows you've got to present well, feel confident.
Okay. He's right.
Yeah.
If it's a bad jumper, it's a bad jumper. They need it.
Could be bad luck as well.
Maybe our little Birdie creative team could send a few samples through. We've done a beer, so we'll do the AFL footy jumpers next.
Exactly. Yeah, we're going to launch a Little Birdie Lager, a mid-strength beer. We'll talk about that a little bit later on the show, but we're going to get you guys at home to vote on the label, and we've all got our opinions in here. But let's round out the AFL segment with the wooden spoon. You touched on it before, but Darce, who's the favourite for the wooden spoon?
Sorry, just quickly. Then we have the Sydney Swans at $71.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure how much game time Franklin's got left. I'd be surprised to see him too much on the park, but I just think the Swans have got too much ground to make up. I couldn't entertain them this year.
Okay.
I just think they're going to be a real middle of the road kind of 12th kind of range. I think maybe 8 games at this stage. It looks like they're rated for, so they can't win the premiership.
And then we might have a look at the wooden spoon. Who's favourite to us?
So then we have North Melbourne at $2.30.
I think, so I was speaking to Nick yesterday, and I believe, and a few others also as well, North Melbourne, in my opinion, are the wrong favourite, and I think they're too short. I would definitely be staying away from North. They're not going to win many games this year, but Adelaide at $5 and Essendon at $7, the second and third in the market. They're going to struggle as well, so I would rather be taking the value definitely on Adelaide. I would have them much closer together, and I'm surprised Adelaide aren't almost favourites for this market. I think at $5 they're a good early bet. I know it's hard to bet on the wooden spoon because you got to cheer against the side every week, yeah. And it might be like a 1-2 game for North and Adelaide combined kind of thing, so it might be a close count. But I just think I think at the value, I think if you wooden spoon better, I think the $5 for Adelaide, $7 for Essendon represents pretty good value.
They are a bit of a rabble at the moment, Adelaide, and so are North Melbourne. They've lost Ben Brown, their big goal kicker, and now they've got a new coach in David Noble. So, yeah, it's scary times for both clubs, and Essendon leaking players isn't great either.
No, I think it's going to be hard yards for Essendon this year. I think they've just had news break yesterday when we were writing the show that Hurley's probably in danger for at least the first half of the year. He's got a hip infection. They just can't afford to lose any top end that they've got left. Lost a lot of speed. They've got a new coach. He looks like he's defensive orientated as well. So any Essendon supporters out there might be...
It's going to be tough watching.
Might be a tough year for him, yeah.
Essendon Hawthorn round 1 might be the only time that we get to really enjoy two sides just going like the clappers. It's not going to be...
Get one on the board early for you.
Yeah, and I've also heard there's a... Just what Melbourne needs is there's a flesh-eating virus out the Essendon, Moonee Valley sort of suburban area. So just when tourism needed a bit of a kick in Melbourne, there's a flesh-eating virus out there. So fingers crossed that blows over. But I think they're the early specs from you. So you've got Brisbane Lions at the $7.50. I'm sort of leaning the Cats, probably Captain Obvious here. And then you're saying that Adelaide at the $5 and perhaps Essendon at $7 is sort of the value in the wooden spoon market. But I think that wraps up our AFL segment. And as you can see, Mark is pretty opinionated, and he's going to put his balls on the line. He's already doing it in the AFL Women's. He's been sending his tips out there, and he's having a good little run at the moment. But Darce, if they want to find more of Mark's stuff...
Yeah, so if you like what you hear, Mark's AFL Stings subscription packs are available in the Little Birdie shop. Trial his stuff in the new AFLW and men's preseason matches. The markets are soft, but Mark's handicapping is strong.
Never truer words spoken. We're going to take a little bit of a break and a freshen up, but we've got Top Rope Tedeschi joining us to talk everything rugby league and our favourite segment, the Hall of Fame. Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast, a unique look into the world of sports betting from the eyes of professional gamblers. I'm your host, Nick Heathcote, aka Scoot, and we've got the kid MG, Mark Goodwill, on debut, and Darcy Spinks joins us again. But now it's time for Top Rope Tedeschi time. We've had, it feels like an eternity. We've been locked down in COVID, in and out, but the man who knows rugby league better than anyone else, Nick Tedeschi, joins us. Welcome back, Top Rope. Great to have you on board.
Veteran of the team these days. Veteran of the team. Great
Mate,
to be back.
There's big news breaking all across Australia yesterday. The Zinger Tower, it's back, and it's on sale only until March 22nd. What's the line of Zinger Tower burgers that you'll consume in this little month period? I already had one yesterday.
I know my wife's going away for Hen's weekend this weekend, and I'm going to Adelaide, so I'm going to set the line at 4.5 in the next 2 weeks.
In the next 2 weeks. I can't believe they've only released them for a month, but it's probably just a marketing stunt to drive up early sales. Clearly, once the Zinger Tower gets back onto the menu, they have to keep it on forever. Have you had one?
No, I haven't.
So they've got a chicken burger and it's got a hash brown in it. Darce, I'm tipping
KFC.
KFC.
Yeah, Zinger. So I was thinking, what else is Zinger? Yeah, no, I haven't had one. No, surprisingly not.
You may have
I'll be honest, Scoot, your recruitment's looking a little shaky this year. We've got two kids in. KFC is not on the agenda. I'm not sure where little Birdie 21's headed, but I'm hearing the worst at the moment.
In my defence, I am vegetarian, but I do like the KFC chips, I will admit.
Yeah, everyone loves KFC chips.
We'll get them for lunch today, Top Rope. We'll get them for lunch.
Now, Top Rope, we're Season 1 viewers will know all about the Hall of Fame. We had Anthony Seibold, We had a couple of different plunges. It's a little, I guess it's a take the piss, and it's a little bit of fun that we have in the Little Birdie world, and we induct someone every week into the Hall of Fame for doing something magical on the punt. And who better to do that with than Top Rope Tedeschi? Top Rope, it's been a big off-season. There could be many that we could induct into the Hall of Fame, and even Andrew Webster, I sort of touched on him earlier. Maybe he's the only Sydney journo capable of holding PVL to account.
Is Webby alive anymore? Who knows? He's gone off Twitter. PVL has a strong reach. I'm a little concerned for Webby's welfare, to be perfectly honest. He's gone missing in action. No, there's no need to hold PVL to account. There's just no need to hold. Just let PVL run his game. You know, everything will flow on from there. I assume the AFL season's not starting until PVL says it's okay. We'll just all move on and let the great man run Australia.
Now, the last person that we inducted into the Hall of Fame at the end of the year was Willie Pye. I think he rode 5 winners, and it was an absolute fill-up for punters. We've had Brett Naden, we've had Alex Johnson, we've had Joe Moreira, Benny Arn, the Wolf, the William Hill Wolf, Jamal Murray, Barosha, the text message that just swept the nation. It was Clayton Douglas, it was a sting, and now that horse is in Hong Kong. Huey Bowman is in there. There's been many. But Top Rope.
What about the table tennis player and their current link, the Boris, the 64-year-old table tennis player, and the subsequent links to Australia for a Ukrainian table tennis board? They all get in.
And it sort of posed questions when all of a sudden the Ukrainian table tennis was to the fore. It led Top Rope and I to believe that maybe the Ukrainian Table Tennis League didn't even exist. People were betting on thin air.
I 100% still believe that to be the case. But you know what? Thin air is good enough to bet on as anything else. So why not? Well done, punters.
Oh, Top Rope. Andrew Webster, is he in the frame? Surely for this week. Who have you got?
Oh, absolutely not in the frame. No one who slags PBL. If you're listening, PBL, I'm a loyal servant. Stick with me. Look, there's many you could be in, from a racing point of view. Very, very hard to go past the incomparable Jamie Carr, who just keeps riding everything. But, one of my favourite things to bet on every year is the national anthem at the Super Bowl, the length. It snuck over this year. There was a bit of a rort going on in terms of that someone had recorded the rehearsal. The line moved 16 seconds. It's still just slobbed over. And it caused friend of the show, dumpling lover, KFC man about town himself, Anthony Jupp, to recount one of the great stories of all time when he pretended to work for a British television station called NBC to find out how long the anthem would go exactly so he could send it out to the next ad break and have no doubt launched into the over or the under or whatever it was. So, friend of the show, Juppy, our first 2021 Hall of Famer, absolute legend, absolute icon he's one of the great routers of all time.
We'll have to we'll retweet it, but it did around Super Bowl time. Juppy alerted us to the fact that he posed as an NBC producer, and he wanted to know how long to cut to the breaks. It's absolute top-notch level of rorting, and it sort of led me to jog the memory back on how many rorts and what was sort of the greatest rort of all time. We've already mentioned Western Bulldogs recruiting Jamara Ugelhagen as one of the best rorts going around, but I remember the Diana Chainmail when she won MasterChef. That was absolutely huge, and there was Asha Keddy when she won the Gold Logie. Everyone knew it was already over the line. William Hill chased the ace. Can you remember a big rort, Mark, in your career? Apart from Djokovic, $1.90 to win the men's final. That's probably the most recent. It's just money.
No, I had one.
You obviously weren't betting the Mandurah Dogs last night. And it's good if that was your most recent. It's 3 days since then, mate.
Best rort?
Best rort? I had one. Was it the singing comp, the Aussie Idol?
Yep.
The singing software. I had a person ring up from I knew at a recording studio and said that the winner has come in to record the winning song for the show.
Casey Donovan?
Yes. So spent the best part of that day ringing up everybody to crush her, and then I get a text from the same person the next morning saying that the other contestant has now come in to
Guy
record
Sebastian.
his winning song. Spent that day crushing back the other side. So I had one bookie that I spoke to afterwards said, "You've got very weird betting patterns. You've backed both of them in 24-hour spell, basically." So that was interesting. I told that person never to call me again.
So it's like a reverse raw.
Yeah, got the winner though.
Now, Anthony Jupp, a great nomination for the Hall of Fame. He should be actually nominated for the Hall of Fame based on his work on the couch. I think he had about 8 VB tinnies and carried the stream with DK, and he avoided Rex the Sausage Dog too. I think my little dashhound that was on the live stream, he took a fond liking to DK, but we'll talk about that more on tomorrow's show, Bet Doctor, our racing show. But we might take a little bit of a break, and we'll come back with Top Rope Tedeschi and all his rankings for the Premiership and the wooden spoon market. But Darcy, if you're betting this week?
Topsport.com.au, the biggest betting online bookie, taking on everyone. They don't reject bets and bet the biggest limits. Gamble responsibly. 1-800-858-858.
Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast, a unique look at the world of sports betting through the eyes of professional punters. I'm your host, Nick Heathcote. I'm joined by Darcy Spinks and the kid MG, Mark Goodwill. He's been huge on Naboo, but we're talking NRL, we're talking Rugby League at the moment, and we've got Top Rope Tedeschi joining us on the dial. In Top Rope, the NRL Premiership market, we're going to go runner by runner, and you'll just froth at this. You'll be chomping on the bit, and you've waited all summer for this moment. Are you ready?
It has been a long off-season. I don't know how we did those 2 months, but we just need to get back into some footy.
Now, let's go from the top. Darce, topsport.com.au odds.
Yes, so the first one, we have the Penrith Panthers at $5.
The runner-up, Tedeschi.
False favourites. Look, they're one of 5 teams who can win it all, but everything broke their way last year. They could not have had a better run. They had a great run with injuries. They won all the close games. I think the best bet around them is missing them to make the top 4. About $2.30. Definitely taking them on. Not backing them for the premiership at that price. They've lost a lot of their depth this year. I think there's a fair bit of regression going on the Panthers. I'm happy to bet against them.
Okay.
Interesting. Then we have the South Sydney Rabbitohs at $6.
Scoot's team.
Yeah, I love the Bunnies this year. I've got the Bunnies making the grand final. I think they are the biggest threat to my premiership selection, my top premiership selection, which we'll talk about very, very soon. Bunnies have done well this year. They've recruited well. They've got not a lot of big names, but they recruited Jai Arrow, a really good middle, and they've just they've got some experience in Benji Marshall to back up some quality young back rower in Jacob Host. And a winger. One of their real big issues last year was kick return. Josh Mansour is one of the best kick returners, rucks it out of his own line in the game. I think the Bunnies are in for a big year. Love their backline, best backline in the comp. Around the $6, I think you can have a bet on them to win it all. And I think there's about $1.85 for them to make the top 4. They'll be in the top 4, no risk at all.
And Wayne Bennett, it could be just a Cinderella story, just handing the reins over. Wayne Bennett's final year as coach.
Absolutely, he'll be all in this year. You might see them make a couple of mid-season moves if required. He has no interest in Souths in 2022. He is all in Souths 2021. I think he's a big factor this year, and this might be Wayne's last great chance to win the premiership. I can't see him lobbing with a contender in the next couple of years. So, Wayne Bennett and Souths this year, big year.
Okay. Cool. Then we have the Sydney Roosters at $6.50.
Severely underrated, the Roosters. Look, they've flown under the radar a bit this year. They've still got a very strong list. They've got one of the best coaches in the game in Trent Robinson. Look, I haven't got them making the grand final this year, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did jump in. Price is about right. I think they'll be in the top 4. I know $1.85 is available there. The Desperados out there can definitely chime into that if you're after a bet on the Chooks, but I wouldn't be backing them to kind of finish anywhere outside the top 4. They are just too good and too well coached.
Have you lit a candle for Sonny Bill Williams leaving the club?
I have lit a fire Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get the effigy built to honour his leaving rugby league again. But hopefully we never see him again.
For you guys, top rope isn't a fan of Sonny Bill Williams. He's one of his arch nemesises. Darcy?
Right.
Terrible person.
Okay, then we have Melbourne Storm at $7.
I cannot believe the price on the Storm here. I really can't. I guess one of the concerns at the Storm is Cameron Smith won't be there this year. The Storm have rebuilt their team. This is not a continuation of the Storm era of days gone by with Slater. This is an entirely new team. Munster, Pappenhausen, Harry Grant's back. This is a team that can dominate and be in the top four again for the next 10 years. I absolutely love the Storm this year. They are the best roster rating. I think they've upgraded their back line with the recruitment of Ramus Smith. Obviously, Cameron Smith leaving is a big out, but they've got the second and third best hookers in rugby league in Brandon Smith and Harry Grant. So I think the Storm are tremendous favourite. I got them winning 20 of 24 regular season games this year. I think they win the minor premiership easily. I think that's a tremendous bet. $7 to win the premiership is absolutely a bet. And the best bet you'll have all season, I think $1.90 to make the top four, absolutely free. Get on it, 10 units. Remortgage the house, do whatever you need to. Gamble responsibly, of course, but just get as much as you can, and then get some more on.
So for the early adopters of Little Birdie podcast, Nick Tedeschi came out swinging with Melbourne Storm on a similar vein of form and confidence about the Storm, and he was proven right. He absolutely nailed the futures, and Storm were anchored in everything. And Mark, I know you've been in the betting circles for a very long time, and Storm are a bit of an auto bet for you, and especially in recent times. You love the Storm.
Yeah, well, I get told from rugby league traders all the time that they just continue to pot Melbourne Storm because they're a Melbourne team and the Sydney markets are stronger and they keep putting up decent odds. They always seem to make the top four and give you a run come the last 2 weeks of the season. They don't always win, but at the prices they keep putting up, I think last year top rope was they were at least $6.50 or $7 again at some stage, weren't they?
They were about $8 in the pre-season at one stage. It was just stupidity. And every year, like I've almost come to the point where I tip the Storm regardless every year. Like at the end of the day, you want a team that's well coached and a team with quality players who know how to play the game. And they just, like you said, you've just nailed it. They give you a run every year. This is not a team that's the backside's going to fall out of them and they're not going to do any good. You're going to get a run with the Storm every year.
And Harry Grant really announced himself in the State of Origin game on the big stage, didn't he?
Yep, and he was top three in the Dally M for the first half of the year last year. So, Harry Grant, really good young player. There's nothing to worry about with the Storm machine.
No Cam Smith, no worries.
Then we have the Canberra Raiders at $9.50.
The milk.
Yeah, I think these are the team that's probably been undervalued again. We'll be putting up a graphic, I think, on Little Birdie next week around kind of teams that have a great record covering the spread and teams that don't. The Raiders are typically undervalued by the market all the time. They're a tremendous record. I think they can sneak into the top four. A few question marks on their three-quarter line, but look, they've got a very, very good pack. They've probably got the best recruit of the year, Ryan James. I think this is going to add to their middle there. It's going to require a little bit of coaching. I'm not entirely sure all the pieces gel 100% together, but I think they're a pretty good value at the $9. I have a little check on, but I think the best value is I think $2.20 about them to make the top four of the Raiders. So I'll be on the Raiders top four.
So that rounds out the chances for top row for premiership contenders: Penrith Panthers, South Sydney Rabbits, the Roosters, the Storm, and the Canberra Raiders. Let's talk, I guess, a little bit quickly about the teams in the middle of the road. Who kicks them off?
Yeah, so then we have the Gold Coast Titans at $13.
Top row?
Yeah, I kind of have grouped probably 4 or 5 teams together here. I don't think there's much between Manly, Newcastle, Gold Coast, Parramatta, the Sharks, and maybe the Warriors here. The Titans probably have more upside than anyone else. Cameron Smith will play for the Titans this year. I don't think it'll be announced before the season. I think he will come in, play a key role kind of from maybe round 8 onwards with the Titans. but he will be their hooker. I think they've got plenty of upside. They've recruited well. They signed David Fifita and Tino Farmuselli. So I think that they're in for a big year. I think they can return to the top 8, but still a few question marks. I don't think they can go on and win it all.
Okay.
So not the Tom Brady effect. We sort of spoke about it before. Tom Brady just stepped into Tampa Bay, and then everyone started just to lift around him. Do they have the cattle for Cam Smith to do similar, or not quite?
If Cam Smith goes there, they'll go close to having the cattle if things break right. They probably don't have the halves, but with Cam Smith, he can probably overcome that a little bit. But I think I would put them on the. I would have to seriously consider making them a contender if Smith lobs.
And then we might zip down to the wooden spoon, given we're pressed for time. But
yep.
Who's favourite for the wooden spoon, Darcy?
The favourite is the Brisbane Broncos at $4. Then we have St George Dragons at $4.80, Canterbury Bulldogs at $5, West's Tigers at $7, and North Queensland Cowboys at $17.
Do you want to start with the Broncos, the rabble?
Broncos are a complete and utter rabble. Somehow the wooden spoon team has gotten worse. They've lost Dave Fifita, and their coach is an idiot, to be perfectly honest. So, and they've got the hardest draw in the comp, so they're in for a long, long year. The Broncos. I think, but between them and the Dragons, they're the two that are really going to fight it out. I'm leaning a bit towards the Dragons. They've lost Cameron McInnes, which was a pretty big injury. Corey Norman's been suspended for at least a week, so they're diabolical at the moment. So I'm happy to bet the Dragons. I think they're the value in the wooden spoon market.
Well, it's going to be a fascinating year of rugby league, and the Melbourne Storm, there it is again. Top rope's all over him. Mark's just nodding. He'll start to just parlay up every single leg of futures that he can find to have a big fat trip to Hawaii. COVID will be over by that stage, so we're going to dine on the Melbourne Storm, and even Canberra Raiders are fancied as the big threat there and the early value in the market. So I think it's $7 and $9 respectively at topsport.com.au. But Top Rope, you've been fantastic with the Jumpstart into the Hall of Fame. And Das, if punters like what they hear...
Yeah, so if you like what you hear, Nick Tedeschi's subscription packs are available in the Little Birdie shop under GGOA, the greatest game of all. $55 for his season pack. Check it out.
Thanks for joining us, Top Rope. Any final thoughts?
Team, I am just absolutely gagged for the rugby league to start. Charity Shield this weekend. You can get a look at what you'll be getting with the subscription service this year. Only $1.10 at the page Darcy just mentioned. So get on board that, and we're ready to rumble with some rugby league betting.
Yeah, the season guide is unbelievable reading. It's a little bit of comedy, but there's in-depth analysis across every team. It's got rankings, how they're going to perform, and the amount of prop markets and side bets that you can get on team wins, on try-scoring markets. If you want to get set for your bets for the NRL season, you cannot go past Nick Tedeschi's season guide at $50 or $50 plus GST. It's an absolute steal. But that's us. It's been a long show, massive show. There's been some big insight here, but I think the takeaways are Brisbane Lions, the early play for the AFL Premiership, and definitely the Melbourne Storm and Canberra Raiders are the teams to beat there, and South Sydney Rabbitohs are expected to go really well in the NRL. Favourite part of the show, Mark? Any highlights? Or?
Top Rope's coverage is good at the NRL. It's good to see he's tipped up the Storm. He sounds like a smart man, and I was having a quick read of his form analysis last night, and it's in depth and it covers a lot of ground. So if you're into your NRL betting, especially for futures, it's the time to get it now.
Das, we've unearthed another Richmond Tigers supporter amongst the faithful, so I'm going to hear a lot of about...
It's going to be a long year for you.
It's going to be a long year for me.
Yeah.
Although your Rabbitohs are tipped to go well.
Yeah, they might provide some highlights. I think they got the Storm, round one. And a little birdie told me that the Melbourne Storm are a little bit behind in their training schedule as well. So they're not quite as fit. So when you hear rumours like that, it's probably likely they're going to come out and just go 32 and just absolutely smash the Rabbitohs to pieces, because some of those rumours are well off the mark and a lot of teams just come out firing anyway. But thanks for joining us, Top Rope. We'll see you next week.
Absolute pleasure, guys. Till next week.
Now, Little Birdie listeners and fans at home, we're going to have to get you involved with our Little Birdie Lager launch. I've got that one out. we're going to do a vote on Twitter, and we'll put a little promo video together. But we've got some big news on the Little Birdie podcast. We've got a Little Birdie lager in conjunction with a brewing friend of mine. And what better to sit and watch the races or watch the sport with a mid-strength beer. They're all the rage at the moment, but I couldn't find a mid-strength beer that I like. So we're thinking about getting sponsors, but I thought, why don't we just do it ourselves? So we're pretty ambitious here, and we've come up with a recipe, or our friends have, that tastes a little bit like a mid-strength Stone and Wood. So Darcy, you've got a Little Birdie lager label that you like. So hold that one up in front of your little camera there.
Yep.
So we want you guys at home to vote on which label that you like best. So we'll call that number 1 there. Little Birdie lager number 1. So you got the two-tone blue and black.
This is
it looks
my
stylish.
personal favourite.
Your personal favourite. And what about you, Mark, for the camera?
I've gone black is all business.
Yep.
So I've chosen this one. So we've got 4 selections that we're going to put up on social.
Yep.
And we just want people to
vote. Tell us which one you like. That's the beer for the punters. And you guys get to choose. And I've got number 3 here. So it's more of a racing sort of theme. So it sort of looks like some silks there. So that's number 3. And then number 4, we've got the bird on top of the rooftop there. So you've got the little clouds, sunny skies. We're back in the winter. We're shouting from the rooftops. And that's the Little Birdie lager there. So we'll put that on our Twitter page, so at Little Birdie Pod. Follow us on Twitter, and then to go into the draw to win a prize, follow our Instagram page, Little Birdie Podcast, on Instagram, and go in and like the photo of the beer that you want to vote for, and you'll go into the running to win some beer and some of our merch. So stay tuned for that for the next couple of days. Make sure you head to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we're on SoundCloud, and our YouTube channel, Little Birdie Podcast. Great show. Thanks for joining us, Mark and Darcy, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.